My fellow citizens and residents of the BVI, over the past several weeks, indeed months, we have been confronted with several developments, issues and challenges in our financial services industry. I've kept you abreast of these through various statements in the House, as well as through the media. It is important that we continue to talk about these issues, simply because the financial services industry is vital to our economy, and in fact contributes over 50% of the revenues that is spent on services provided by the government. The financial services sector is also a significant employer in the territory, and we all recognize its critical importance to this economy. As Premier and Minister of Finance, I pledge to do everything in my power to protect this industry. That is what I have been doing. That is what I will continue to do. As you know, we have been working flat out to safeguard our hard-earned reputation, especially since leaks appeared in the world press regarding some companies registered in the BVI. I want you to know, my people, that not a single BVI law has been broken. On the contrary, we continue to be involved competitively and legally in a well-regulated industry and have adhered to the rules of engagement as laid down by the various standard-setting and watchdog organizations and agencies such as the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, International Association of Insurance Supervisors, International Organization on Securities Commissions, Financial Action Task Force, Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and the International Monetary Fund. The BVI also fully complies with the rules established by the Offshore Group of Banking Supervisors, now known as the Group of International Finance Center Supervisors, in the document titled Best Practice Statement on Trust and Corporate Service Providers. In addition, the BVI is an active member of the Global Forum and the peer review group of the Forum. The 24 tax information exchange agreements we have signed with various governments are a testament to our constructive engagement in aiding and fostering the process of international cooperation in all relevant spheres. Reviews and assessments conducted by the International Monetary Fund, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and even the government of the United Kingdom are proof of our enviable track record in keeping pace with, and in some cases moving ahead of, international standards. This territory has nothing to hide and plays fairly within the rules of international law. But my people, the nature of the environment in the industry today is that the goalpost is constantly moving and the playing field is now anything but level. So while we cannot and do not apologize for the spirit of competition and our entrepreneurial savvy that has made BVI a player in the global financial services industry, we also have to recognize that constant adaptation to new rules is essential if we are to remain players in the industry and if we are to maintain a level of success. In this new environment, my government has been working tirelessly in partnership with other stakeholders to defend the integrity and prudent practices of our financial services industry. Our efforts are rewarded by the constructive dialogue and unity we're able to achieve amongst many of the overseas territories and crown dependencies on these issues, which are so relevant to our respective economies. I'm pleased that our collective voices and those of our private sector partners have already begun to shape the current dialogue. It is important to clearly state at this juncture that there are some issues in our territory which cut across party lines. Our financial services industry is one of them. This industry is important in providing jobs, opportunities in the real estate sector, goods, services, and underwriting the cost of our education, infrastructure development, and healthcare. That is why we must show a united front on financial services. That is why I call on my colleagues again on both sides of the House to stand together with one voice, one purpose, and one common strategy to robustly defend our financial services industry and continually take appropriate measures to play a role in shaping and adhering to internationally established standards and best practices. This is not a political issue. It is an issue of survival. That said, today I want to report to you, as your leader, as clearly and comprehensively as I can on my recent engagement and the deliberation in the United Kingdom with Her Majesty's government, as well as on other key initiatives relevant to our financial services industry. You are aware that last weekend, my fellow leaders in the overseas territories and Crown dependencies engaged with the United Kingdom government and other stakeholders on matters of trade, tax, and transparency. These three T's are the core of Prime Minister Cameron's G8 agenda during his term as its president. The relevance of this to the BVI is simple. The nature of our financial services industry, and in particular our very successful companies regime, facilitates global business transactions which have come under tremendous scrutiny by the United Kingdom, other national governments, NGOs, and media houses. The primary criticism is that the international financial services sector, of which the British Virgin Islands and other offshore finance centers, notably the overseas territories and Crown dependencies, are a part, facilitate the evasion of taxes in many developed and developing countries of the world. In order to address this perceived problem, the United Kingdom has adopted its Trade, Tax and Transparency Initiative. Its main tenets are to promote information exchange on tax matters, greater transparency of beneficial ownership, and to increase trade globally. Integral to the UK delivering on that agenda is the need to demonstrate that its house was in order, and that the overseas territories and Crown dependencies are committed to the United Kingdom's initiatives. Frankly, the principles that Her Majesty's government is now promoting are important. We agree with those principles. Moreover, the mechanisms for achieving the principles are not materially different from what BVI and other OTs and CDs currently have in place. My fellow leaders and I have been united in making this clear to Her Majesty's government. During our discussions with Her Majesty's government, we were pleased to constructively discuss the practical steps needed to tackle the global problem of tax evasion and how the United Kingdom and its overseas territories and Crown dependencies would continue to apply high standards of regulations to address this. Therefore, we have agreed to three important steps in advancing this global agenda. Firstly, we have agreed to play an active part in a new pilot initiative of multilateral automatic tax information exchange launched by the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. The pilot project provides a mechanism for the countries to automatically exchange information for tax purposes. This is consistent with our present commitments, and we must now negotiate the details of that initiative with each of the 5 countries. It should be noted that all the OTs and CDs have committed to this pilot. Secondly, we have committed to joining the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance on Tax Matters. The convention, which originated with the OECD, dates back to 1998 and contains obligations for sharing information, obligations the BVI already subscribes to. The convention facilitates the exchange of information between all the countries who are party to it, and effectively mirrors in many respects Article 26 of the OECD Convention on Information Exchange, which serves as the basis for all negotiations on tax information exchange agreements. By committing to join the convention, we have demonstrated our willingness to always be a part of the solution rather than the problem, and we do so with the full interest in mind of our financial services industry and the territory as a whole. We expect to see clarifications and assurances on certain aspects of the convention, and perhaps most importantly, work towards the achievement of a global level playing field, The latter, I believe, is critical to achieving consistent and across-the-board standards and protecting our financial services industry. The third facet of our agreement with Her Majesty's government relates to beneficial ownership. The BVI has agreed to prepare a national action plan that will set out the concrete steps where needed to fully implement the requirements of the international standards of the Financial Action Task Force. We are confident that this plan will demonstrate that this territory already has in place very high standards of transparency on beneficial ownership information. We have been requiring the keeping of beneficial ownership information for more than 10 years and are therefore not new to the process. The BVI has always cooperated with authorities around the world in providing relevant beneficial ownership information. Our action plan, which I hope to present sometime next week, will reinforce to the United Kingdom and the rest of the world that beneficial ownership information is already available to law enforcement and tax authorities in accordance with the established mutual legal assistance cooperation regimes. The BVI strongly believes that the measures which it currently has in place are effective in providing transparency on beneficial ownership and effective in the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and other forms of financial crime. We believe that these measures support the Prime Minister's mandate for transparency, a mandate that overseas territories and the Crown dependencies have led for decades, and which we will continue to do in a responsible and fair manner. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a clear shift in global standards on tax transparency. Beyond the recent activities and agreements with the United Kingdom, there have been other standards promulgated for the sharing of information. Both the United States Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance Act and the United Kingdom Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, both known as FATCA, predate the new United Kingdom initiatives. The BVI government has already made a decision to enter into an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, with the United States, an arrangement under FATCA that is geared towards allowing for the easy transfer of information. This was done in consultation with the local industry. We consider this to be the better option, as it provides a measure of protection and efficiency to BVI entities that are required, as those worldwide are required, to report information to the United States. We are in active dialogue with the United States Treasury on FATCA and are currently adopting the structures within the Ministry of Finance to minimize the administrative burdens and efficiently share information. As there are a number of BVI lenders who could be impacted by FATCA, as well as the industry, we are about to launch a public education campaign on this. The United Kingdom FATCA very closely resembles the US FATCA in scope and purpose. The BVI is therefore actively engaged with the United Kingdom on its application and operation. And there is every indication that FATCA-type agreements may indeed become the global standard for bilateral information exchange. And we will continue to do everything to ensure that our financial services industry is not in any way disadvantaged. I reiterate to our current and potential investors that the government stands ready at all times to solidly defend their legitimate investments and interests. Ladies and gentlemen, the BVI can strongly stand on its record of being at the forefront of global standards in respect to transparency, information exchange, and regulation in the financial services sector, as demonstrated over the years. We fully subscribe to international standards and best practices, which essentially set out the importance and need for assessing and maintaining information as an important tool of regulation and international cooperation, including the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and other forms of financial crime. We have always been proactive. The Virgin Islands had, prior to the finalization, and adoption of the revised FATF methodology, commence a process of reviewing the laws on money laundering and terrorist financing to establish the areas where reforms will be necessary. All of the factors I've cited earlier demonstrate quite clearly that the BVI has always ensured that it upheld the highest levels of transparency. We recognize that compliance with established standards is good for business and the growth of our financial services industry. We must maintain our vigilance and continue to educate those who have very limited knowledge of our financial services regime, and also share our knowledge so that we are able to shape the global standards which emerge. My fellow citizens, residents, and members of the financial services industry, my government is committed to the development and sustainability of the financial services industry. We will continue to make appropriate advancements to ensure that this is achieved at all times. I urge you to collectively continue to demonstrate your support, patience, and confidence in our initiatives as we address the issues before us. We have confronted similar challenges in the past. I expect that just as we triumphed then, that we will triumph again. I believe that right is might. Our strategy is the right one, and with God's help, your support and prayers, we will prevail. Thank you for listening, and may God bless these wonderful islands.